Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
We've got some big news for you today. I am so excited. The Rings of Power finally overtook House of the Dragon.
Oh shit. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I got a cold.
Yeah. It turns out that no, that's not actually the case. In fact, Lord of the Rings came in 4th place this week, even behind the Cyberpunk anime.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. The Cyberpunk anime is supposed to be amazing.
It is, but you know, it's just kind of interesting to watch this whole situation go down with the Rings of Power. This thing was one of the most expensive TV shows ever produced, if not the most expensive show ever produced. There's been a lot of controversy around it. There's been a lot of online drama, and nobody gives a crap.
So what do? You go bring Nielsen ratings in, who you have a deal with for your football and all that, to do their numbers in quote.
Yeah, so this is the problem. This is the problem when we don't have like a vetted, consistent third party to actually review and rate and keep track of the numbers for all these streaming services. Is you've got different data sets depending on the time of day it is and
who paid for it,
how
much you paid for it.
So we're gonna talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 276,000 subs.
Woo!
Vetted by YouTube. Thank you so much for the support. We do talk about pop culture. We've talked about the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, in the context that it has become a big deal online, not necessarily because people like the show. I'm actually not hearing a lot about people liking the show. It's just become this battleground, you know, like The Last Jedi and all the other crap out there. I haven't watched it. I'm going to tell you up front, I have no intention of watching it. It's not out of protest. It's out of a lack of
interest.
Lack of interest. I have no interest. I will absolutely positively watch House of the Dragon before I watch this, and I wasn't even a huge Game of Thrones fan. So, I just have no interest. And actually, that lack of interest...
Which is funny because you read all the books.
I did. The lack of interest actually predates the Amazon series. I noped out after The Hobbit because I'm like, these are boring. And then these aren't even connected to the Peter Jackson movies, but they're trying to trick people into thinking they are. And they're not even Tolkien, but they're trying to trick people into thinking it is.
Honestly, just all the drama around it turned us off before it even started. We're like, because normally I would have watched it anyway. But I was just so like, I don't care at this point because I'm so tired of hearing about, you know, the bigots. But I didn't even watch it. And I would have probably watched it had they not done that.
Yeah. I just don't. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
I just don't care at this point. I'm like, nope, not going to watch it because I'm so tired of hearing about it.
My feeling is if that's all you got is you have to watch it because we've got brown hobbits. I'm like, I don't have to watch shit, people. I don't have to watch whatever I don't want to watch. It's not even Tolkien.
I'm tired of being told I'm a misogynist even though I'm a woman.
So anyway, we'll do the Forbes article, then we'll go into Parrot Analytics data, which says it was actually in 4th place. Rings of Power tops House of the Dragon in first Nielsen ratings, but with warped data, according to Forbes. So they said the headline is that Lord of the Rings of Power has topped Nielsen streaming charts, including placing well above its fantasy rival House of the Dragon.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, this seems highly unlikely.
This is the past 30 days.
This is Google Trends. This is the search interest. And House of the Dragon
is yellow.
Cyberpunk
is green.
green.
Lord of the Rings is red. And She-Hulk is blue.
Yeah, that's basically a flat line at this point.
Pretty much for both of them.
Yeah. And actually She-Hulk, when it first started, had more interest. And I think that, again, that's a lot of the controversy. I don't think it's really about the show itself being that good. But anyway, they said, the data is from over a month ago. This is Paul Tassi from Forbes.
Okay, my data is in the last month.
Yeah, so the week of 8/29 to 9/4. So it's talking about the Rings of Power's double episode premiere and measuring in minutes viewed, which you would, of course, expect to be nearly double what you might expect from one episode. We're now on episode 6 of the series, which aired today, making this data very old. They said there's some other things, too.
Well, they're going by the data that was from back then. That's what they're touting.
Yeah, Nielsen's streaming ratings do not take into account cable. A show like a show like Rings of Power literally does not exist on cable, while its main rival, House of the Dragon, airs Sundays on HBO, just like Game of Thrones. So here, House of the Dragon, its third episode was being measured that week, is in 5th place on this list, but the headlines would indicate it's being dominated by the Rings of Power when it's not just apples to oranges, it's apple to horses as a comparison. Yeah. That's true. It is. I mean, HBO was like record viewing. Again, you have to trust their data. And I don't know if we can even trust their data now because we did a video about how Warner is getting sued.
Yeah, I agree. But we did point that out when we did the one video. We were showing the data points, but it was like where they were maybe doubling their data. Amazon had like quadrupled it by the information we had in that video.
Yeah, so Paul Tassi's basically like, Parrot Analytics, it's kind of iffy too. The only real hard data is something like Netflix's own top list with actual numbers attached, but it only compares its own shows to each other, not rivals. There needs to be a uniform measuring stick, especially if more of these streaming services are going to offer advertising. Because as a former marketing manager, I would not do an ad spend unless I knew exactly how many people were probably going to watch. Mm-hmm. Because that's where you get your rates from.
Well, go back to the chart we have for Google Analytics. Okay, what if you move it back, I have it in 30 days. What if you move back further, 90 days, okay? They're trying to argue that it was, no, there's no way.
No. There's
no way.
People are way more interested in House of the Dragon than Lord of the Rings. I mean, Lord of the Rings is like not even.
There's no way. That's the end. That's the people talking about it. That's the search. That's the showing how much interest is and it's being talked about. And they're not.
Yeah, even Cyberpunk, the video game 2077 is higher.
Right.
Has higher interest.
Even if you go back to the time frame that they're claiming it to be, it's not true according to analytics.
No, they're not.
Other metrics we've seen. It's load of shit.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it because he said that Parrot's not perfect. It's better than Nielsen's. Nielsen's is only measuring the streaming minutes or whatever.
Plus, they have a deal with Nielsen.
Well, that is true. That is another thing you have to consider. Amazon does have a deal with Nielsen's now to measure football. And you also have to think, too, it's actually kind of sadder. Not only did they spend a ton of money on marketing, a ton of money on the show, but a lot more people have Amazon Prime than do HBO Max.
Right, and they're still getting their asses kicked.
And they're still getting their asses kicked. They're getting their asses kicked by Cyberpunk and She-Hulk, too. So according to Parrot Analytics, again, we need a consistent.
I honestly don't think they're getting their asses kicked by She-Hulk. They seem to be about the same.
Yeah.
Or even a little bit above it.
So according to the Wrap, Cyberpunk Edge Runners premiered on September 13th and has the 29.3 times demand for the average series. So that's how they're doing it. That's how many times demand. This is like a role-playing game. This is a multiplier or something for damage.
Roll to see how much damage.
See how much damage you're doing to Lord of the Rings. They said HBO's House of the Dragon remained the most in-demand recent series released in the US for a 4th consecutive week. Its demand seems to have stabilized around the 55 times the average series last week, having changed little from the previous week. At least it's not losing people. The show has done an exceptional job of attracting audience attention in a crowded field, but its value for HBO is greater than its own audience. It's also driven demand for the original Game of Thrones series to the highest level since the show's record finale in 2019. With more shows planned in the Game of Thrones universe, looks like HBO will continue to maximize the value it gets out of the franchise. They could do a multiverse and just redo the last season. This is an alternate timeline.
I was going to point out too, and I did know this. Andor came in for its debut with 3 episodes behind She-Hulk too.
Oh, that's bad.
Yes, I know.
Everybody's and the sad thing is, and I haven't gotten around to watching it yet, but people said Andor is actually one of the better Disney Plus Star Wars shows.
I haven't seen it.
What's so weird though is, we're working our way through the Orville and we're into New Horizons now. And I'm looking at the special effects in New Horizons, which kind of distracts me actually, because all I'm looking at is wow, the ships look really, really good now compared to what they did before. But it's also distracting because I'm focusing more on the special effects and the characters.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not. I don't know.
But we were talking last night. It's how come this show looks way better than the Star Wars shows?
Yeah, I know, right?
The Star Wars shows look really, really cheap. Boba Fett should have looked really expensive, and it was really damn cheap. Anyway.
That's why they're making Andor the way they're making Andor, because it's cheaper.
I don't know. Yeah. So House of the Dragon number one.
I don't believe this either. Even if you go by that chart we were looking at, that can't be true.
So She-Hulk number 2, supposedly. Again, we don't have a good metric. Cyberpunk Edge Runners, I do believe that there's been a lot of chat. That's the thing too. Like I tend to pay attention to what people are talking about online, given what we do. And a lot of people talking about House of the Dragon. The only dialogue I'm hearing about the Rings of Power is you don't like brown hobbits.
The only thing I'm hearing about She-Hulk is kind of similar. It's like you're against diversity because and mostly it's just memes about how dumb it is.
But both Cyberpunk and House of the Dragon, I'm hearing pretty good things about.
About how dumb it is and about the fact that Daredevil still hasn't shown up. That's what I'm mostly hearing about.
People are pissed about that. Andor, I've actually, surprisingly, I've heard good things from people who did not like the previous Star Wars series. But again, this is what happens. This was kind of like what happened with Solo. I didn't think Solo was a bad movie. I didn't think it was a terrible movie.
But we got so much shit for saying that.
We got so much. Oh my
God. You're supposed to fall in line. I love it. Both extremes get pissed about the same thing.
Oh, they're mad we went to go see it.
Yeah, and then we did because it's part of our job to go see it for the other site too. And we're like, it wasn't that bad of a movie. It wasn't the best, but it was better than we expected it to be.
Yeah, it was.
And my God, I got so much shit. I had all these people from other channels that said it was crap or they weren't going to watch it at all come and harass us and call me names and all this shit because we said that. That was actually one of our most
we gave Solo a decent review and that was one of our most downvoted videos ever. It was like a 25% downvote, 75% upvote. For us, that's one of our worst. And it was mostly people coming in like, how dare you go see Solo? I'm like, well, we're going to go see if it gets better. And actually, Solo, I don't think was the worst thing ever. It actually had some pretty good parts. It wasn't the best thing ever, but what I'm saying is Andor is basically paying.
It was better than Last Jedi.
It was a hell of a lot better than Last Jedi. Let's put it that way. If Solo had come out first, I think things might have been a little bit different. Well, until the other shoe dropped. But no, what's going on is people are so pissed off about Disney Star Wars, and Boba Fett was a dud. There was a lot of goodwill. So it's really inconsistent. They had a lot of goodwill build up with Mandalorian, and going into Boba Fett, people expected more of that, and Boba Fett was a letdown.
Was it Tamara Morrison? It was even like...
Why is it Boba
Fett? Why is Boba Fett acting this way? Boba Fett wouldn't act this way. What the flip?
Why is Boba Fett just a sad old fat man?
Why is he just, monologuing all the time? This wouldn't be what he'd do.
Hell no.
And I'm like, when your actor's telling you wise advice, you're not listening to your actors. What's that tell you? I mean, Mark Hamill probably told them about Last Jedi too. Didn't listen.
Yeah, and I think what's going on is Andor's paying for, Obi-Wan backlash too. People were like, Obi-Wan was stupid. I mean, there are people that liked it, and there were some decent parts to it, but people were like, no, I'm out.
No, thank you. I saw it.
It broke canon. I'm out.
It just didn't make any sense. Leia doesn't make any sense. Sorry.
A lot of it doesn't make sense. I mean, it was cool to see. I will give them that. It was cool to see the Obi-Wan Vader throwdown, even if.
But it was just a lot of rock throwing for the most part.
Pretty much. They just throw rocks at each other. That'd be cool. They just picked up a rock and just.
But it was kind of neat. But it also wasn't something that they should have done because they made it out like in the New Hope they hadn't seen each other, and now anyway,
remember last week when it wasn't
unrelated. The point is, it depends. Basically, they're picking and choosing which data and how to present the data because they're so desperate. Amazon's now trying to tout the Nielsen ratings as the definitive because it's the one that agrees with what they want it to agree with, who they happen to have a deal with.
This is kind of like Disney logic, like So we had our busiest Thursday afternoon ever in September.
On a year that ends with a 2.
Yeah, I love it. They're like, I love just any studio. It's not just Disney, not just Amazon, but whatever. Like with movies, they're like, it's the biggest opening weekend ever, but we're counting the opening weekend as being Tuesday through Wednesday of the next week.
Yeah, they've been doing that.
They've been doing that. Like now the weekend is literally all week long. Now they keep pushing it back and pushing it back. It's biggest opening ever. And it's all about,
it's like, just take the L. People don't watch the show. They don't like the show. The ratings keep dropping. You chased most of your audience off before it even aired. I mean,
that's a huge, and look, this might go down.
Learn a lesson.
They're not going to learn any lessons. That was the thing too. A lot of people they didn't want the drama. And even if the show is good, and I've heard it's not, but if it's good, people are even like, I don't care.
Even the people that were willing to give it a chance have come out and saying, it's not good. It's pretty, but it's not good. The media is turning on them and everything else because they white knighted for this for this so long, and then when it comes out, it really isn't that great. So now they're like, oh shit, it sucks. And now the bad part is because they put so much emphasis on how diverse it is. The takeaway is going to be for these executives is people don't want shows with diversity, which is not the case. The case is they want shows that are done well, have good characters who happen to be diverse, and that's not your main point. You're not calling your audience names ahead of the release.
Well, that's kind of what happened. That's kind of what happened with High Guardian Spice and with
She-Ra.
Yeah, She-Ra. That because there was all this drama, and then the shows wound up kind of not doing as well, I guess, as they wanted.
Monster High. We'll see
Monster
how that goes.
High. But then when people actually had decent looking shows, they were pitching to Crunchyroll and other places. They were like, this looks too much like this other show.
That was because of High Guardian Spice and She-Ra, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't come out and say that deliberately and say, hey, they didn't pick my show up because High Guardian Spice was a disaster.
No, but the person said flat out that that's basically what they told them.
We tried quote unquote diverse shows and it didn't work. So no.
So instead of taking the right takeaway, the takeaway is going to be incorrect. And it's actually going to further harm, minority groups for their chances at things because of the stupidity around it. Well, usually done by white women.
Usually, I'm waiting for Andor to be like, the bigots didn't watch Andor because it's got a Hispanic lead.
I'm sure they're already doing it.
It's like, wow, people liked Rogue One. Fine.
Actually, I loved Rogue One. I was kind of excited for Andor.
Rogue One is one of the few Disney Star Wars. Rogue One in the first, season Mandalorian are
what people wanted.
What people wanted, and we thought, hey, Disney Star Wars might actually be pretty okay because of those two things, and it's very inconsistent. So that's not it. I just think people are over it, and they're just over it. They're over it, and they were over the Rings of Power before it even debuted. Congratulations, marketing team! You did some anti-marketing, and you need to just shut the fuck up.
I can't believe they're still doing it this long after. Whatever. They keep failing this way.
Nobody's other than to stick it to the bigots. Nobody's even talking about it anymore. House of the Dragon, again, the opposite was like I didn't even know it was coming out. Like I had no idea it was even coming out. They just like dropped it and said, "Here's some more Game of Thrones, guys. Do you want?" And guess what? There were diverse people in that show too, and you really didn't see a lot of headlines. I mean, I'm sure there were some, and I'm sure some actors got some back, whatever. But it wasn't like they made it a selling point of the show. Come watch it for the brown people. Like that's a stupid stuff. Like I was sitting there watching Orville last night, and I'm like, yeah, it just dawned on me, like, hey, half the cast is black, and oh yeah, Star Trek. Like, it was one of the most diverse shows ever. Back in the 90s, Next Gen and Deep Space Nine, and it never dawned on me to make that like a selling point.
Didn't even think about it.
It's just a good show.
You're just like, they're just the characters you liked. And they happen to be characters that were diverse, but you're like, oh, that's my favorite character. And it didn't matter what color they were or how they identified sexually or anything else. It's just like, oh, I like that character a lot.
Yeah, it's just a good show. Make a good show. It doesn't matter. People will watch it. It's really that easy. Just make a good show and people will watch it, and don't call attention to this shit and drive them away before they give it a chance. All right, we're going to wrap it up.
Yes.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.